Is a brief description of all of our daily Scrum meetings. They all started promptly at 1:00 p.m. and ended around 1:15 p.m. On the first day, September 3rd, I worked on setting up the environment and the initial Java code and setting up the project in Maven. And I decided I would be working on the GUI next, and Rob began his research on what the best Raspberry Pi to use was. The next day I worked on the GUI and decided I will continue setting up the JFrame and canvas for the project, and Rob determined the Raspberry Pi that will have all the ports necessary and what we would need, and decided he would work on researching the touchscreens we would be using. On September 5th, I finished the GUI and we started working on note-taking functionality, and Rob did some more research on the touchscreens and decided he would be working on the Raspberry Pi to screens connection. On September 6th, I finished the note-taking functionality and decided I would work on changing the color of the pen, and Rob was still working on the Raspberry Pi to screens connection. On September 5th, I finished the color changing functionality and began working on clearing the notes. Rob finished the Raspberry Pi and screen connections. On September 10, I was still working on the clearing notes functionality and would continue on that, and Rob was researching Raspberry Pi coding. On September 11th, I finished clearing notes functionality and started working on scrolling through the notes, and Rob was still researching the Raspberry Pi coding. On September 12th, I was still working on the scrolling through the notes, and Rob was researching the best way to develop for the Raspberry Pi. On September 13th, I was debugging scrolling through notes functionality still, and Rob decided it is best to develop Java separately from the Raspberry Pi and load it onto the controller. On September 14, I was still working on the bugs in the scrolling functionality, and Rob was researching how to transfer code from the personal computer to the Raspberry Pi.